A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and in this installment of Versus, we have two of the best bad guys in movie history squaring off. Hannibal Lecter and John Kramer, aka Jigsaw.
Those who don't appreciate life do not deserve life.
We're gonna compare the two killers in terms of their smarts, character journeys, and overall influence as movie characters. How would you try to escape from Hannibal Lecter or Jigsaw? Let us know in the comments. Round 1. Origins. Hannibal Lecter wasn't born as a hungry villain. In the prequel, Hannibal Rising, we learn that as a boy, he lived in a castle in Lithuania. Unfortunately, invading German troops forced his family into exile.
Come on, darling. The cart is packed. Everything is ready.
He ends up orphaned with his sister Misha. Hannibal is eventually forced to watch his sister lose her life in a gruesome way. This leads to him exacting revenge that's equally brutal and personal. As it does in many horror films, trauma creates a monster out of Hannibal Lecter.
I came to collect a head.
Speaking of trauma, Jigsaw certainly went through a lot before making it his life's mission to make people play sick games.
Can you imagine what it feels like to have someone sit you down
John Kramer?
and tell you that you're dying?
When engineer John Kramer learns that he is terminally ill, he decides the only solution is to end his life. Although he tries to drive his car off a cliff, he miraculously survives.
Cancer isn't what started me in my work. It was the moment I decided to end my life that started me in my work.
Kramer then decides to test how far others will go in order to stay alive by creating absolutely diabolical traps with very severe consequences even for survivors. Jigsaw has a pretty interesting backstory. We particularly like how his engineering knowledge explains why he's able to create such complicated contraptions. However, Lecter's backstory has historical context and consists of a more complex tragedy. We have to give the best origins round to Hannibal Lecter. Winner, Hannibal Lecter. Round 2. Intelligence. What makes these nightmarish men so scary is just how smart they are. Hannibal Lecter possesses the kind of mental power that would make the greatest thinkers in the world feel dumb. Not only does he have recall so strong he can draw the Florence Cathedral from memory, he also is a truly master manipulator.
Quid pro quo. I tell you things, you tell me things. Not about this case, though. About yourself.
Despite being an acclaimed psychiatrist before his incarceration, Lecter only holds animosity for his field and its legitimacy. But he's able to use what he's learned to manipulate and otherwise play mind games with anyone he can.
You're very frank, Clarice. I think it would be quite something to know you in private life.
Jigsaw also has a lot of smarts that help him put his victims in life or death situations. As we mentioned, he has technical and scientific knowledge. Jigsaw is able to create devices and games that can deliver brutal punishments in as little as a minute.
Live or die. Make your choice.
The villain also has an uncanny knack for testing others' mental weaknesses. Sometimes it almost seems like he'll know exactly how his victims will behave before they even arrive in the trap. So just because you're only having a nice conversation with Jigsaw, don't assume you're not already stuck in one of his games.
The rules are simple. All you have to do is sit here and talk to me.
Jigsaw is an incredibly smart man, but Hannibal Lecter is something else entirely. His mind is so powerful and so dangerous, it should be considered a weapon. For the intelligence round, we have to give it to the twisted genius that is Dr. Hannibal Lecter. Winner, Hannibal Lecter. Round 3. Morality. Hannibal Lecter is described by FBI profiler Will Graham as having, quote, no remorse or guilt at all, and as a, quote, monster. This has led Lecter to be labeled as a sociopath. The villain's lack of empathy is apparent when he breaks people down by forcing them to face their past trauma.
After your father's murder, you were orphaned. You were 10 years old. You went to live with cousins on a sheep and horse ranch in Montana. And
Audiences witness this in The Silence of the Lambs when he has FBI agent Clarice Starling recount uncomfortable memories to receive pivotal information about the villain Buffalo Bill. Lecter's ability to put her through that and seeming lack of empathy make him feel more sinister and distant from humanity.
What became of your lamb, Clarice?
I killed him.
Jigsaw says he's not a killer because his subjects ultimately choose whether or not they live or die.
I've never murdered anyone in my life. The decisions are up to them.
But that logic can feel more than a little suspect. In some cases, the odds of survival are just too random for the victims to have a fair chance.
Right now, there's a slow-acting poison in your veins. The antidote is inside the safe. The combination to the safe is written on the wall.
Other traps have required one subject to take out one or more other people. However, some have emerged from Jigsaw's games victorious and gained a new lease on life. Underneath all his twisted acts, he clearly believes that his methods help people.
How you play the cards you're dealt, that's all that matters.
Though neither villain is what we would call good, we have to give Jigsaw the title of more moral, relatively speaking, of course. Winner, Jigsaw. Round 4, Evasiveness. Hannibal Lecter and Jigsaw would not be able to get away with their crimes for so long if they weren't so good at keeping people off their trails.
Hello, Amanda. You don't know me, but I know you. I want to play a game. Here's what happens if you lose.
Though they've each been captured at least once, it takes more than some handcuffs or a cell to keep these two in a safe spot. Hannibal avoids having anything pinned on him in Hannibal Rising, and soon makes his way to America to study at Johns Hopkins Medical School, as well as continue his vicious practices. Although he's in captivity for much of the Silence of the Lambs, he escapes and makes his way to Italy, where he poses as museum curator Dr. Fell for a while.
Are you from America, Doctor?
Not originally. I've traveled there.
I've always wanted to visit New England, especially.
I've enjoyed many excellent meals there.
But he does manage to get captured by Gary Oldman's Mason Verger. And while Lecter does escape again, he'll need to stay on his toes to avoid getting captured once more.
After all, as your mother tells you, my mother certainly told me, it is important, she always used to say, always to try new things.
Jigsaw lived through multiple films without seeing the inside of a cell or being officially brought into a station for criminal charges. He has come close. Jigsaw was nearly caught in the first film, and a SWAT team discovers him in Saw 2.
Hey. Is this close enough?
However, he's able to use his brain, or if we're talking about the first Saw, his brawn, to avoid getting locked up. Jigsaw's even able to elude authorities while he's on his deathbed. He's always thinking several steps ahead of those who would contain him. Catching this puzzling villain is practically impossible.
I am talking to you. You are not listening.
Jigsaw might not be quite as intelligent or cultured as Hannibal Lecter, but he definitely has a much better track record for avoiding capture. We have to give this round to the Saw villain. Winner, Jigsaw. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Round 5, Cultural Impact. There was a time when you could hear the name Hannibal and not automatically think of the vicious villain. And then Anthony Hopkins came along.
All good things to those who wait.
He was so good at playing Lecter that he won a Best Actor Oscar for The Silence of the Lambs. He was only on screen for less than 20 minutes. Hopkins dominates the screen with his cold, calculated, but frighteningly charismatic performance.
Oh, Clarice, your problem is you need to get more fun out of life.
He showed us that terror can be created not just with supernatural ghouls and monsters, but through a real person's lack of any empathy and continued desire to cause harm. While none of the Lecter films reached the height of The Silence of the Lambs, that doesn't change how much of an impact the character has made. Jigsaw's impact has also been pretty major. He has all kinds of iconography, including the terrifying puppet Billy, as well as the animal-themed masks worn by him and his co-conspirators. Part of the reason the character achieved horror movie fame is because of actor Tobin Bell's portrayal. While it didn't get him any Oscars, he's often the best part of many of the Saw films. Bell is able to turn Jigsaw into a strangely logical madman.
Most people have the luxury of not knowing when that clock's gonna go off. And the irony of it is that keeps them from really living their life. It keeps them sleepwalking. It keeps them drinking that glass of water, but never really tasting it.
Hearing him talk is sometimes even more exciting than watching his victims struggle through his traps. Jigsaw's brand of gruesome horror seems to have inspired several imitators, but most of his contemporaries lack his distinct personality.
Game over!
Both Jigsaw and Lecter made big impressions since their debuts, and have become extremely memorable pop culture villains. However, we think that the biting doctor has a slight edge here. Not only has Lecter remained influential for decades, but one of his portrayals was awarded with one of acting's highest honors.
I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. Bye.
Winner, Hannibal Lecter. With a score of 3-2, Lecter narrowly manages to slay his competition and take the versus match. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.